Have you ever felt that the people around you aren't always who they seem to be? I used to believe that my family and friends were trustworthy, but I learned the hard way that sometimes the truth hides in the shadows, and the people you think are the safest can end up causing the most harm. The story I'm about to tell will take you into a world where manipulation, deceit, and intricate schemes exist right within a family, and it's impossible to look away. This is a story about loved ones, about trust, and about the boundaries a manipulator is willing to cross to control someone else. So sit down and prepare yourself for an experience that I promise will make you question what's really happening around you. This is my story and the story of the person I fought to protect from the cruelest lies imaginable. Chapter 1, The Perfect Sister. I still remember so vividly the day Rachel, my sister, became the hero of our family. I was only 15 at the time and Rachel was 17. My grandpa, everyone called him Grandpa Marty, had just suffered a stroke. His health declined so quickly it shocked all of us. My parents were drowning in work, pulling double shifts 7 days a week just to keep the household afloat. In that situation, Rachel volunteered to take care of him. I can still see the proud look in my parents' eyes when she said, "I'll take care of Grandpa. Let me do it." Everyone trusted her, and honestly, so did I. At only 17, Rachel gave up. Hanging out with friends, skipped school parties, and got up at 5 a.m. every day to look after him. She slept at his house every night, just in case something went wrong. Who wouldn't think she was amazing? I used to see Rachel as perfect, the kind of sister anyone would wish for. Back then, both I and my little brother Sammy, who was only 11, believed she was doing the most wonderful thing in the world. Rachel became a role model in the eyes of teachers and relatives alike. Even at school, people mentioned her as the selfless girl who gave up her youth to care for her grandpa. Every time I heard my classmates talk about Rachel, I felt this strange swell of pride inside me. At first, everything seemed to go smoothly. Grandpa was cared for, my parents were less burdened, and Rachel was celebrated by everyone in the family. But slowly, I began to notice something changing. Not in Grandpa, but in Rachel herself. At the time, I couldn't yet understand how that change would lead us to a horrifying truth. All I knew was that the story of the family hero was only just beginning. Chapter 2, Cracks in the Image. At first, I thought Rachel was just a little exhausted from the pressure of caring for Grandpa. But soon it wasn't that simple anymore. I remember one time I was sitting in my room when the door suddenly burst open. Rachel stormed in, her face flushed red, her eyes burning with rage. "Where's my laptop?" she screamed before sweeping all the books off my desk onto the floor. I froze. Was this really the gentle, calm sister I had always known? I stammered, "It's under your bed." Instantly, Rachel's face shifted. The anger vanished, replaced by a strained smile. "Oh, right. Sorry, I've just been so stressed lately." Back then, I didn't think much of it. I just assumed she was under pressure. But from that moment on, everything began to spiral. Every day, Rachel told us disturbing stories about Grandpa. That he called her cruel names. That he tried to hit her with his cane in a fit of confusion. That he flat out refused to take his medication. I listened and I believed her. Sammy believed her. The whole family believed her. After all, who wouldn't when Rachel had given up so much? She looked like an angel, struggling against an ungrateful, difficult old man. So even when Rachel lashed out at me or Sammy, sometimes hitting us until bruises covered our arms and legs, I stayed silent. I even lied to teachers, telling them my sister was amazing, that she was shouldering responsibilities far beyond her years. The more time passed, the more Rachel was celebrated. Teachers at school went easy on her. Relatives showered her with endless praise. In everyone's eyes, my sister was the embodiment of selflessness. But there was something odd. All of Rachel's stories about Grandpa, no one ever witnessed them except her. Every time my parents thought about dropping by to help him, Rachel stopped them. "Let me handle it. You two need rest." When I once tried to surprise Grandpa with a basket of fruit, Rachel slapped me across the face and screamed, "Who told you to come here? Do you want to stress me out even more?" I left in silence, telling myself she was probably just moody because of her period. but deep down, I was starting to feel that something wasn't right. Chapter 3: The Secret Inside the House. Everything truly fell apart on my 16th birthday. Sammy, my 11-year-old little brother, was working on a family history project. He needed to ask Grandpa a few details, so I texted Rachel to ask for permission. But the message went unread. I was frustrated. I thought to myself, if she won't answer, I'll figure it out on my own. So Sammy and I decided to sneak into Grandpa's house while Rachel was at work. I can still remember that moment. The door creaked open, and a stench of mildew and strong urine hit me in the face. I expected to see Grandpa sitting in his armchair, kind and gentle as always. Instead, he nearly leapt up from his wheelchair, his whole body trembling. Don't, don't tell her you came here. His voice quivered, his terrified eyes darting from me to Sammy to the door as if Rachel might burst in any second. I stepped closer, wanting to hug him and reassure him, but he immediately recoiled, shielding his face with his hands, stammering, I'm sorry, please don't hit me. My heart sank into my stomach. That was when I noticed his arms were covered in yellow and purple bruises. His body was frail skin hanging over bone. Sammy pinched his nose and whispered, "It smells like urine in here." I couldn't breathe. Could it really be? Rachel Grandpa broke down sobbing and told us everything. That Rachel had been starving him, hiding his medication, hitting him in places clothes would cover. That every night she blasted death metal at full volume so he couldn't sleep. Or do you see, all of it designed to make him look confused, delusional, and unwell. And while he suffered, Rachel had been stealing his social security checks. I could hardly believe my ears. The person everyone in the family praised as a hero was the one torturing our grandfather. The sound of a car door slamming shut outside made Grandpa go rigid. His face went pale as he stammered Rachel's back. "Quick, hide. You have to hide." Sammy and I clutched each other, paralyzed. Thankfully, it was just a neighbor parking their car. Grandpa collapsed back into his chair, sobbing in relief. I wanted to collapse with him. My head was spinning. All this time, we had been deceived. From that moment on, something ignited inside me, a determination that no matter what it took, I would bring the truth to light. Chapter 4: The Sudden Death. After hearing what Grandpa had confessed, Sammy and I bolted straight home. Neither of us could think of anything except telling our parents right away. I still remember practically screaming as soon as I saw them sitting at the kitchen table. Rachel's been hurting. "Grandpa, Mom, Dad, we have to go to his house. Right now." At first they looked at me with suspicion, but when they saw the panic in both me and Sammy, they dropped everything, rushed to the car, and sped off with us back to Grandpa's house. The entire drive, my heart pounded in my chest. I kept praying we'd make it in time. But when we opened the door, the sight before me nearly knocked me to the ground. Grandpa sat motionless in his chair. His eyes were closed, his skin a lifeless gray. And beside him was Rachel, her face streaked with tears, sobbing, "I just got here. I just got here and found him like this." He choked on water. I tried everything, I swear. I went numb. Just hours earlier, he had begged us not to tell anyone. And now, he was gone too fast, too unnatural. My parents clung to Rachel, crying, calling her their devoted daughter. I stood there filled with fury and helplessness. The only evidence we had were Grandpa's words, the bruises on his arms. Now he was dead, and Rachel was standing there weeping like some innocent angel. A chilling fear rose inside me. If I spoke up, who would believe me? Everyone trusted her completely. Everyone saw Rachel as the savior of the family. When the ambulance arrived, Rachel took my hand, squeezing it tightly as she whispered, "Thank you for always being on my side. Now it's just the two of us." Her voice trembled, but her hand was ice cold. I couldn't tell if it was gratitude or a veiled threat. In that moment, I realized this battle was only just beginning. Chapter 5: The First Suspicions. After the funeral, the atmosphere in the house grew heavy and suffocating. Everyone was grieving, but there was one person who seemed too perfect: Rachel. She wept in front of our parents, posted heartfelt tributes to Grandpa on social media, writing words dripping with sorrow. Neighbors, teachers, friends, everyone praised her, calling her the angel who cared for him until the very end. Everyone believed her, except me and Sammy. I couldn't erase from my mind the sheer terror in Grandpa's eyes that day, or the bruises scattered across his frail arms. I couldn't forget the reeking stench of urine in that room, or his trembling whisper, "She's taking my money." Those memories haunted me every night, making me certain something horrific had happened. Sammy felt the same. Quietly, he handed me his phone, showing me the blurry photos he had snapped of Grandpa's bruised arms, taken in haste right before Rachel came home that day. His small hands trembled as he scrolled, but his eyes burned with determination. See, I captured it. We have to find more proof. From that moment, I knew I wasn't alone. Together, Sammy and I created a little plan. Whenever Rachel slipped up, we would watch, take notes, and secretly collect any evidence we could. And the first opportunity came sooner than expected. One night I heard Rachel's voice through the thin wall. She wasn't crying. She wasn't grieving. She was laughing loudly. "Finally, I'm free. No more waking up at 5 a.m. No more putting up with him. I can live my life now." I froze, my heart racing. Grabbing my phone, I hit record and pressed it against the wall. Her laughter carried through, captured in the file, echoing like the most damning evidence yet. The very next morning, Sammy brought me something else, a handful of Grandpa's pills, his name printed clearly on the label pills Sammy had found tucked away in Rachel's desk drawer. If Rachel's story was true, that Grandpa had choked on water, then why were his medications hidden in her room? With each passing day, our suspicions grew darker, and soon, one truth became undeniable. Rachel wasn't the family hero. She was Grandpa's killer. Chapter 6, The Investigation in the Shadows. For since the day Sammy showed me those photos of Grandpa's bruises, the two of us had become a secret team. Every move Rachel made was carefully watched by us. But it wasn't easy. She was more cunning than I had imagined. In front of our parents, she was still the selfless angel, always knowing how to look exhausted, yet force a smile, drawing pity from everyone around her. One evening, right after dinner, Rachel spoke up. "I think we should cremate Grandpa. It would be easier, more peaceful, and quicker." The spoon slipped right out of my hand and clattered against the table. I knew if Grandpa's body was cremated, all the evidence would be destroyed. I had to think fast, but Grandpa had so many friends. They'd surely want to see him one last time. An open casket service would be more meaningful. Rachel paused. For the briefest second, her eyes flashed with hatred, but it vanished almost immediately, hidden behind a strained smile. Fine. As long as everyone feels comfortable. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I sensed a faint glow in my room. When I cracked my eyes open, my blood ran cold. Rachel was standing right next to my bed, holding my phone, scrolling through every photo, every recording. I forced my breathing to stay steady, pretending to be deeply asleep. After a long while, she finally set the phone back on the desk and left the room. The second the door closed, I bolted upright and grabbed my phone. Just as I suspected, the audio file from the other night, when she laughed about finally being free, was gone. But thank God I had already backed it up to the cloud. The next morning, Rachel switched tactics. Over breakfast, she spoke to our parents in a voice dripping with fake concern. "I'm really worried about the kids. The other day, they snuck into Grandpa's house and scared him. Maybe that's what made him weaker." Our parents turned to me, and Sammy disappointment written across their faces. Sammy opened his mouth to protest, but I kicked him under the table, signaling him to stay quiet. I knew Rachel was baiting us. If we told the truth about what Grandpa had said, our parents would think we were making things up out of grief. I swallowed my rage and kept my head down in silence. But inside, my determination only burned stronger. The harder Rachel tried to bury the truth, the harder I would fight to expose her. Chapter 7, Clues from the Neighbor. After that breakfast, Sammy and I realized one thing: we couldn't rely on our parents. Rachel had completely manipulated them. Our only choice now was to gather evidence ourselves. I thought of Mrs. Chen, the neighbor who lived right next door to Grandpa. She had been very close to him, but ever since Rachel started her caregiving, she had practically disappeared. One afternoon after school, I convinced Sammy to go visit her. Mrs. Chen opened the door, her eyes red from crying when she saw us. Oh, kids. I feel so sorry for him. I tried so many times to visit, but Rachel would always say he was sleeping or too tired or confused. Once I even heard blasting, ear-piercing music at 3 a.m., some death metal stuff completely inappropriate for an elderly man. I called the police, but Rachel said Grandpa liked it loud. The officers left after that. My throat tightened as I listened. Everything she said matched what Grandpa had told us. That helpless feeling returned, but this time there was a flicker of hope. At least someone outside our family could confirm the truth. Sammy gently grabbed my hand and showed me something on his phone. On the screen were photos he had taken during the funeral, clear bruises on Grandpa's arms and hands. I even saved them on the drive, Sammy whispered. So even if she goes through the phone, she can't delete them. I watched my 11-year-old brother grow braver before my eyes. In this situation, he seemed years older, sharper, more determined than ever. That evening, as the family gathered around the table, Rachel performed her act again. She told our parents about staying up all night, taking care of Grandpa. Her voice, trembling eyes, red from crying. She even pulled out Grandpa's old Rolex, holding it up with exaggerated sentiment. He wanted you to keep this as a memento. I gripped my hand under the table. Grandpa, trembling and terrified, had begged me not to let Rachel know we visited. Someone that scared would never willingly hand over his most precious possessions to the person tormenting him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I began plotting. I had to collect every piece of evidence, Mrs. Chen's testimony, Sammy's photos, anything Rachel might slip up on. Alone, I couldn't beat her, but if the truth was undeniable, even our parents wouldn't be able to dismiss it. Chapter 8. Evidence from Social Media and the Diary. The next morning, I decided not to waste a single moment. If Rachel had any slip-ups, I needed to catch them before she could manipulate the situation again. I started with social media, a world where Rachel felt invincible. She posted everything thinking it showed her care for Grandpa, but in reality, it was a display of control. I scrolled through her Facebook, Instagram, and even the private groups where she vented to her friends, and as I suspected, she had been careless. One photo caught my eye, her holding a glass of water next to Grandpa, which still had a few drops of medicine he hadn't finished, her eyes fixed on the camera with a forced smile. I zoomed in, heart pounding. This was direct proof Rachel exerting control in plain sight, hiding behind the mask of a caring granddaughter. But photos alone weren't enough. I needed irrefutable proof, something she couldn't deny, a confession or a journal. Then I remembered the small drawer in Rachel's room that Sammy had noticed the other day, where she kept her personal items. That afternoon, while Rachel was at yoga, Sammy and I sneaked into her room. My hands shook as I opened the drawer, but determination steadied me. Inside was a thick journal, meticulously detailing every aspect of Grandpa's life, when he took his medicine, moments of confusion, even the times Rachel had deliberately frightened him, until he shook with fear. One page made my blood run cold. Grandpa wanted a cookie today. I let him have a few, then took the rest away. He glared at me, but it's fine. I still have control. Every line emphasized a horrifying truth. Rachel wasn't just controlling him, she derived pleasure from his fear. I exhaled sharply, rage and dread surging through me. For the first time, I felt both terrified and furious, a mix so strong I wanted to scream, but I forced myself to stay calm. We needed a precise plan. I photographed every page of the diary, storing it on a hard drive and backing it up in the cloud. If Rachel suspected anything, I still had secure evidence. I also downloaded every post and photo she had shared online, compiling a comprehensive file. That night, sitting by the window and looking out at the garden where Grandpa used to sit, reading, admiring the flowers Rachel had deliberately let wither, I silently vowed the truth would be revealed, and he would never have to live in fear again. Chapter 9. The Confrontation and the Truth. Revealed. The next day I knew I had to act before Rachel could manipulate the situation again. I called my parents and said firmly, "We need to talk, and Sammy has to be there too." My parents were slightly taken aback, but they could sense the seriousness of the matter the moment I asked them to come over. When the whole family sat around the living room, I laid out all the evidence screenshots from social media pages, from the meticulously kept journal, detailing how Rachel manipulated Grandpa. Every eye in the room turned to me, and I could feel the mix of doubt and fear in my parents' gaze. I spoke plainly. Rachel isn't just controlling Dad. She's intentionally frightening him, even interfering with his health. Here is all the evidence from her social media post to the journal I found. Rachel, standing in the corner, flushed and stammering, tried to deny it. That's not true. I just, I only wanted to help him. But every word she said contradicted the evidence in front of everyone. The journal entries I read aloud, the photos showing her manipulative gaze, made her excuses meaningless. My parents were silent for a moment, their eyes filled with both anger and disappointment. Finally, my mother spoke. Rachel, we trusted you, but this is unacceptable. Your father does not deserve to suffer like this. Rage surged through me, but instead of yelling, I remained calm. We have evidence, and if necessary, this will be taken to the authorities. This is no longer just a family issue. It's about protecting a human being from manipulation. Rachel began to cry, her tears a mix of panic and despair, but no one there felt pity. She had crossed a line. Sammy, my 11-year-old brother, stood beside me, eyes resolute, silently reinforcing that the truth could not be hidden. The confrontation lasted for hours. Rachel tried to defend herself, but with every journal entry, every photo, every detail I presented, she gradually fell silent. In the end, my parents decided Rachel would no longer have access to Grandpa, and all oversight would now be under our control. As Rachel left the house, I felt a relief I had never known before. No longer would I worry for Dad, no longer see the fear in his eyes whenever Rachel appeared. All the evidence we had collected now served as a shield, protecting him from the toxic behavior she once inflicted. That evening, sitting beside Grandpa, I saw him smile gently for the first time in months. I knew that although the past still carried its wounds from this day forward, he would live in peace, free from the fear of being manipulated by anyone ever again. When everything finally ended, I realized that the truth can hurt, but it's also the most powerful weapon to protect the ones you love. My father finally regained his peace, and our family learned an important lesson. No one has the right to manipulate someone else's emotions or decisions, no matter how close they are. This story leaves a clear message. Trust your instincts, watch carefully, protect the people you care about, and never let fear or blind trust make you accept toxic behavior. Sometimes strength doesn't come from shouting or confronting. It comes from preparation, patience, and standing firm in the face of the truth. And most importantly, never forget, you have the right to protect yourself and those you love, no matter who tries to stop you.